Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking a code, the secret language of libraries. We're talking about that hidden system that takes millions of books and somehow turns all that chaos into pure, organized knowledge.
I mean, have you ever just stood in the middle of a library, right? You're surrounded by thousands upon thousands of books, and you just think, how does any of this work? How is this incredible mountain of knowledge so perfect?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not magic, even though it can feel like it. It's actually a really brilliant system of organization. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how the whole thing works. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big ideas that bring order to all that chaos. Then we'll get into how every single book gets its own physical address and a digital map to find it. We're even going to touch on the universal language that lets libraries all over the world talk to each other. And then we'll bring it all home and talk about why this system actually matters to you. Yeah, every single time you look for a book. So before any book can even dream of being checked out, it has to go through this really crucial two-part process. This is what takes it from just a new book in a box to a resource that you or I can actually find and use. And at the heart of this whole thing are two main ideas: classification and cataloging. Here's a great way to think about it. Classification, that gives a book its physical street address on the shelf. Cataloging, that creates the digital map, kind of like a GPS, that shows you how to get to that address. These two concepts, they are the absolute foundation of librarianship. Okay, so let's dig into that first step, right? Classification. Before a book even gets close to a shelf, it needs its own unique address, and that is both an art and a science. The main goal here is actually pretty simple, but it's super powerful. Put similar things together. Right? So if you find a book on, say, gardening, it makes sense that the books right next to it are also about gardening. The whole system is designed to move you from the super general, like science, all the way down to the really specific, like the botany of roses in England. But how do you do that? How do you get that specific and do it the same way for millions and millions of books? That was a huge challenge. That is, until this brilliant library scientist, Dr. S.R. Ranganathan, came along with a totally revolutionary idea. He basically said that any subject, no matter how complicated, can be broken down into 5 fundamental parts. So Ranganathan's big idea, his framework, was that you could deconstruct any topic into these 5 key facets. You can almost think of them as 5 different lenses you look through to analyze a book's subject with just incredible precision. And this framework is called PMEST. It stands for personality, matter, energy, space, and time. So let's take an example. A book on the design of wooden bridges in 19th century France. Okay, so P, personality, the main thing, that's bridges. M, matter, the material, wood. E, energy, the action, design. S, space, the location, France. And T, time, the 19th century. See? Using this, a librarian can pinpoint exactly what a book is about. And that's how they make sure similar books all end up sitting together on the shelf. So once that whole subject is analyzed, the librarian can then assign it a number from a standardized system. And the one you've probably seen a million times is the Dewey Decimal System. That number, that's the first big piece of the code you see right there on the spine of the book. And this is the crucial point. That whole string of letters and numbers, what we call the call number, it is not random at all, not even a little bit. It's a carefully, meticulously constructed address that tells you exactly where that book lives in the vastness of the library. Yeah, and you can really see the anatomy of that address right here. You've got the classification number, which is for the subject, then a book number, which is usually based on the author's last name, and sometimes you'll see an accession number, which is just a unique ID for that specific copy of the book. It really is a complete GPS coordinate for the shelf. Okay, so the book now has its physical address. Great, but how do you find out what that address is? Well, that brings us to our second pillar. Cataloging. This is all about creating the map. You can think of cataloging as building the library's own powerful internal search engine. It's the process of creating a super detailed digital profile for every single item. We're talking title, author, publication date, and crucially, a description of what it's about. That way, you can find it even if you have no idea what the title or author is. And you know, creating a good digital record means getting all the details just right. For example, who's the author? Seems simple, right? It could be a person, sure, like Stephen King. But what if it's a report from the United Nations or the World Health Organization?
In that case, the author is the whole organization, what's called a corporate author. The catalog needs to know the difference.
Catalogers also add subject headings, which are basically keywords. But these are not just random tags you'd throw on a blog post. They follow some really important principles. The specific entry rule means a book about bridges is listed under bridges, not something generic like engineering. And the common usage rule means they use terms people actually use, like birds instead of the scientific term ornithology. The whole point is to make it intuitive, to guess how you would actually search for something.
Okay, but think about this. You've got thousands of libraries all creating these digital maps. How on earth do you make sure their computers can all talk to each other? How do they share all this information? Well, they use a universal standard. And that standard is called MARC 21. It stands for Machine Readable Cataloging. This whole thing was developed by the Library of Congress, and it's basically the digital blueprint that lets a library in, say, New Delhi, read a catalog record that was created in New York. It is the behind-the-scenes magic that makes things like interlibrary loans and huge shared databases even possible. So, a MARC record uses these numbered tags to organize every piece of information about a book. A good way to picture it is like a digital filing cabinet. Tag 100 is for the author's name. Tag 245 is for the title. Tag 650 is for those subject keywords. It's this super structured way of storing data so that literally any library computer system knows exactly how to read it. So you see, when a cataloger enters a book into the system, they're not just typing text into a box. No, they are creating a highly structured data file. This simple example shows you exactly how a book's info gets neatly organized by those tags, which is what makes it universally understandable to any library software out there. Okay, I know, that was a lot of technical stuff. Classification, PMEST, MARC tags. But why should you care? What does any of this actually mean for you when you're just trying to find a book? Well, it means that every single time you sit down at a library computer, or even just pull up the library's website on your phone, you are directly interacting with this entire massive system. That little search bar, that is the front door to all of this incredible classification and cataloging work we just talked about. It's the reason finding information is even possible. So the next time you find that perfect book on the shelf, take a second. From the way the shelves themselves are arranged to the results that pop up on your screen, this invisible language is working all around you. It's a system that's been built up over decades, all with one single powerful goal: to turn a building full of books into a true gateway to knowledge, one that's accessible to every single one of us.